one of New York's finest by day, and a mighty fine ventriloquist by night. We welcome our very first guest, Vinnie Ewart, today on
Ventriloquism Weekly.
Hello, all you vents out there in Double Talk Land. I'm Matt Bailey, and I'd like to thank you for being with us again on this Tuesday, July 9th, 2013. Just a quick programming note before we begin. Whenever possible, I'll try to upload on a Monday evening. However, I was away yesterday and unable to put this together. But better late than never, because our guest this week is fantastic. He calls being part of the NYPD Counterterrorism Unit his day job, but when he's not protecting the streets of NYC, Vinnie Ewart is working his ventriloquism act. Let's listen to a bit of Vinnie and his not-so-sober companion, Earl.
Listen, enough's enough. We're gonna get you some help with your drinking problem, and I don't want to hear any more arguments about it. You understand? Have you ever had detox? No. What's in it? It's not a drink, man. It's when you get all the alcohol flushed out of your system. On purpose? Yeah, on purpose. It's a big part of a 12-step recovery program. So there you go. So it ain't gonna work on me, man. I'll never get more than 12 steps from a bar. Listen, how long have you been drinking? You mean today? No, I don't mean today. I mean ever. Oh, hang on. Minus 3, carry the 1. Since 8th grade. Listen, I don't believe you. No one starts drinking when they're that young. I didn't say I was young, man.
And we are so thrilled to have Vinnie Ewart with us now by phone. How are you today, Vinnie?
Good, man. How you been doing?
I've been doing pretty good. Thank you very much for calling in and doing this podcast with us. This will be fun.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Well, our first question for you today, and you asked earlier how long we're going to go for, as long as you're able to go for, and I just want to start off with the question of, I talked in the intro that you're part of NYPD's Counterterrorism Unit, and so you've been a police officer as your career, and I was just wondering how being a police officer has informed your choices as a ventriloquist.
Well, actually, I'm in the K-9 unit, and I do a lot of details through counterterrorism itself. But I got to K-9 basically doing a talent show for one of the chiefs on the department who, kind of liked what I did. And next thing you know, step by step, I'm here in the unit with a fantastic K-9 partner. And I still do the shows every year. It's a community affairs oriented type of a show where they have all cops. And you'd be amazed at the talent there are with singers and dancers and bands. And I'm the only comedian, thank goodness, so I have no competition in the show. But it's not a win prizes or anything. It's just a strictly it's a free show for the community to come and see that we're not just ticket writers and locking up everybody, and then we actually have other things that we do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was wondering, is Earl kind of like every drunk guy that has ever been pulled over by the NYPD?
I used to do DWI enforcement. I had one or two that kind of reflected a little bit on Earl, but I actually designed Earl's character on a guy that I knew when I was in the Marines. I picked his hometown. I picked, because he's from Kentucky, which is pretty funny. And that's happened to be where the convention's been going. And he's only like 4 hours away from where the convention site is. And I thought that was pretty ironic. I did that. I had Earl before I even really started dealing with the convention, which I thought was really coincidental.
So how long have you been a ventriloquist, and what got you started?
Let's see. About 9 years I've been doing ventriloquism. I've been doing comedy since 1989. I used to do jokes on the radio here on Long Island for a couple of years, and then I did a career day for some kindergartners, and I noticed that they would ask you some questions, and I'd take the questions first, and they'd say, "Oh, you ever shoot anybody?" I said, "No," and they said, "Can we see your gun?" I said, "No," and then they didn't want to listen to anything I had to say after that.
Yeah.
So, but I had one more question than the fireman who said, "Did you ever get a cat out of a tree?" And he said no, and then they didn't listen to him anymore either. but I started thinking, how am I going to get these kids' attention? So I bought them a gruff puppet, crime dog, and I just started using the character. I wasn't like trying not to move my lips or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but they were mesmerized. Their eyes were like fixed on it. I'm like, So I got a book, like a lot of ventriloquists do. Got a book in the library, started reading it, practicing, and saying, no, if I could do this, in front of adults.
Yeah.
So I said, I got to get a good character, and I started looking up online, and I came across Axtell, and the first character I got was the old storyteller, and named him Gus, and gave him a little bit of a biography,
Gus,
and
yes.
he took off pretty good. I did one small show at a small comedy club, and then I jumped in front of a crowd of 1,100. And I aced it, and everything was great. And after a few years, I said, I think I need to add another character. And I said, well, everyone up north likes to make fun of hillbilly rednecks. I said, so maybe I'll get one of them. So I got a hold of Dan Hayes in California, and I came up with a design for him. I wanted to go with like a Jim from Taxi kind of look,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted a fully stand-up figure. I didn't see a lot of tall figures, out there. So I have he's 3 feet high, he stands perfectly upright, and gave him a nice little premise, and here I am with it. He was more of a joke character, but he became more of a hit, and I started having to keep him in the shows because they were like, hey, where's Earl? I'm like, oh, I got to write some more stuff, I guess. You
Yeah.
know.
So you designed the puppet as well?
Me and Dan Pace discussed it. He had a general character that I liked, but it was more round faced and a little goofier looking. I changed it a bit. I made one eye off center,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted them to move so that when one was centered, the other one wasn't.
Yeah.
And I wanted him more thin, like I said, like Jim from Taxi,
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd's character.
Yeah.
And the voice wasn't too hard to do, but then they had to come up with a premise about his wife and about him drinking and how he was sober for a while, and everyone likes to hear about stuff like that. And then now I just use Earl a lot at the convention because they'll keep looking for him.
Yeah. Earl certainly is your signature character.
He's really caught on a lot more than I really thought he would.
And with it, it's just interesting listening to you that you were in these situations where you'd have to public speak because of your job, and then you thought of ventriloquism as a tool to get the attention of the kids, and it's just interesting how our paths in life tend to lead us to ventriloquism.
I
It's
know it was shocking. I was like, you know what? I just started doing the character with the McGruff dog, but I wasn't like trying not to move my mouth. But I was like, oh, let me see if I can do it. So I started trying to do it. Looked in the mirror, and I was like, I'm really not too bad at this. And I said, like I said, let's try with adults and see how it goes. And I figured I'd sink or swim early. I'm not getting any younger, so I figured I'd give it a shot.
mm-hmm.
And next thing I know, I got to meet some really fantastic people at the Vet Gaming Convention that I really admired when I first decided to do this. So.
Yeah, that's what kinds of things do you think about, or what kinds of things do you look at in day-to-day activity when you're thinking of writing new material for Gus and Earl?
Well, one thing I always do is I keep at least 3 or 4 index cards in my pocket all the time because I'm not a believer in recording something and saying it because I think you'll never find it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll always find it if it's in a card. And if I see somebody, like an old person doing something, or I got to spend some time in Alabama for 3 months when I went for training, and I really picked up a lot of material for Earl. So, I wrote down so much stuff. Like I was going to get carpal tunnel just from writing it all down. But I used a lot of it. I did a show in Birmingham with Earl, and after it was over, the guy said, oh, you have to line up. I'm like, line up for what? And he goes, we got to see who won. I go, you mean this was a contest? I go, I'm from New York. I said, first of all, I knew I had one strike against me for that. Then I'm going to come down with an alcoholic hillbilly character and make fun of it in Alabama. I'm like, there's no way I'm winning this thing. And I ended up winning anyway. I couldn't believe it. And I was telling people, I go, you guys weren't like offended or anything? And they were like, no, we figured you was talking about them over there. And I said, oh, that's what that table said about your table.
That's enjoyable. I know you're focusing on Earl and doing stuff with him, but any ideas for new characters that we're going to see from you in the future?
I have 2 that I'm toying with. One is Miguel. He's a monkey from Mexico who's notorious for using my credit card and buying things and hitting on girls. And in the crowd. He does it in Spanish. Now, I don't speak Spanish, so I don't know really what he's saying to these girls, and I have to kind of apologize beforehand to them. And another one I have is Roswell. He's an alien from outer space.
Yes.
He's a little cockeyed, but he's blue, and he's in love with Ellen DeGeneres because he thinks that she's really Dory from Nemo. And since they're both blue, they have something in common, and I have to explain to him that, it's a real woman, and that he thinks he has a chance. And I said, well, she's involved with another woman, actually, and he doesn't understand that he still doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
So it's another thing for the stage to deal with. And
Yeah.
then the next one I'm trying to deal with is is Siamese twins, where it's two heads on one body, and the difference is that one is straight and the other one is not.
Yeah.
So it comes into issues with their bodies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What one person likes and what the other one doesn't like, and we'll see how that one goes. That's strictly a club one. I don't think I'm going to be able to use that at the Venthaven convention.
I don't know either. I just I'm excited. You excited this year? What was it like last year with the Marriott and stuff?
The Marriott was a much better place than the Drawbridge Inn. I didn't have to use the GPS to find my room, which was awesome. The food was great. The people were unbelievably courteous. Their big thing was, "Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure." Everything ended with "my pleasure." I'm like, okay. And it was great, though. Nice, clean, spacious rooms. There was more people there than any other year prior. I think they had 530 people or something like that. And the year before it was like 400. That was their goal to reach. And I just couldn't believe everybody, a lot of newer people that were coming around. And I love the fact that, when you see the Red Dotters, which is what we all call them, is everyone comes up to them, "Hey, you having a good time? I said, you'll be back each year now, right? You got the bug and all that, and you're going to have to keep coming." And they're like amazed how everyone, from who's been here 1 year or 2 years or 30 years just comes out and talks to you. The best ones are like, Sammy King. He's so approachable and talks to everybody. And then you've got, Al Seamock and Dan Horn. Dan Horn's the one that really made me decide to pursue this the way I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's ventriloquism is something that other people look at and they go, "What are you doing with that puppet?" And it's like, we entertain, we entertain, and we're a family of entertainers. I don't know of any other group that really is as close knit as ventriloquists, and it's
Right. Well, right. No, you're right. The big thing too is that you have to go up on stage and actually have a conversation with yourself and make it look like it's two or maybe three separate entities, no matter how many puppets you have. But you've got to really make them believe that what they're looking at is like something real, but you've got nothing to do with it. And if you can do that, you're on your way. I mean, Jeff's a master at it. Terry's fantastic at it. There's a bunch of them that I'm really a huge fan of, like Sammy King. Sometimes there's just too many that I can't even name them all. And you feel like you're leaving people out. Like, Al Getler's another one that I really like. Then I like to watch the junior Mike every year to see who's coming up. I got some real favorites with them too. I mean, you had Megan Casey, who's now not a junior Mike anymore. She's going to be the senior Mike. You've got Jeffrey. I always say his last name wrong. Jeffrey Gulch, I think is how you say his last name. Maria Alfaro, one of my favorites. She's unbelievably talented as a singer and a ventriloquist. It's just, Jake LaMarca, he's another one to watch out for. He's going to be out there one day, just completely doing it on his own. And he's got a great catch name, Jake LaMarca. Hey, everyone, Jake LaMarca. Over the years, and he goes, "Oh, I heard my name like 4 times on Matt's podcast."
And yeah, it's that's why I like to do these things, or why this is so something that I'm enjoying. Is I love ventriloquists and I love talking to them because they're so knowledgeable. You all are so knowledgeable, and it astounds me every single day, and it's an honor to get to talk to all vents and get to go down there. I wish the convention was a week long and not 5 days long.
I know, but it's hard for people to take off that amount of time, and
Oh
and
yeah,
all
I know.
that, and it gets expensive when you have the room every night, and then you have people bring their kids, which is also really cool. You see them growing up in it, like like Pete Michaels now. Pete Michaels Jr. is starting to come around. Not come around, but like grow up and everything like that. You watch him every year. There's a lot of them. It's not, like I said, the kids are really cool to watch how they really get into it. Some of the characters, like two that won character contest last year.
Yeah.
They were great. I actually saw the one when I auditioned for America's Got Talent this year, and I saw the one with it was Arnis. I saw him. Actually, his mother recognized me, and we started talking. It was nice to see him outside the convention.
Yes.
But
Let's.
it's just fantastic. It's like a reunion every year. You go there, it's wonderful. You
You
know.
Well, let's backtrack. I don't know how much you can disclose because of contract or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but what is that process like for AGT and that initial audition process?
Well, first thing I was you go through the audition process like you went online, and you end up getting a show up time. There were two dates in New York City because there's so many people that were going to audition. I went down to the West Side Highway, and I walked in, and the first thing I did was I walk into a room, and there's a cameraman, and then there's a judge, just one person just looking at you, like a producer.
Mm-hmm.
So they do your bit, and I walked in. Now, what I did was I have a friend who's like 6'4", about 260, and I gave him one of the dummy masks, the cable operated one. I
Yeah.
walked in, and it was the second day of auditions, and she's looking at me like, "What is this all about?" Which was great, which means I hadn't really seen it. Hopefully, the day before. Came in, gave him this really high pitched voice, like you can see in a lot of videos, like Paul Zerden does, and Nina does, and all those guys. And I did really well. I had the camera guy laughing that he had to move away from the camera because he was worried he was going to get hurt laughing on the film. And they sent me to 7 more producers, and I walked in, and they also were like, "What is this going to be about?" And I was again pretty happy. And I had some music at the end, and then they seemed to like it, but I didn't really make the cut for New York. But they said that I could be on standby for other cities, and then they called me, and I did a big hour-long filming shoot in Times Square and Rockefeller Plaza with the old man Gus, and like I was like window shopping in Manhattan, and I'm hoping that it airs actually on Wednesday. I mean, it's a possibility it could air tomorrow, which would be pretty cool, the 9th of July. So that'd be pretty cool to see my stuff on there, even if I didn't make it. Get some exposure. You never know.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And I mean, you unfortunately you didn't. You're saying you didn't get far to see the judges and stuff, but the nice thing about that is the silver lining of that is you know where you had them laughing and you know what you did and you can go back next year and you
Oh,
can.
definitely. I'm going to come up with something better next year where they're not going to be able to like not put me through. So.
That's the attitude. That is the attitude. One last question before we go. You work in New York City during the day, and you told me you don't live in the city. But so, what kind of venues do you play? Whether towards where you live, or if you stay in the city after work, that type of thing.
Let's see. Again, I'm working all over pretty much New York City. I live on Long Island, and I'll do comedy clubs across the island. I've done some corporate stuff, private, party type stuff. I've been able to perform, different holiday parties. Like once was actually the police commissioner of New York City, which was pretty cool, I have
Awesome.
to say. And I didn't have the guts though to put a mask on him and bring him up on stage since he's my boss. But the mostly like I said, corporate stuff. I've done clubs in the city. I've done the New York Comedy Club. I've done comic strip, which was pretty cool. I stood on the stage and I'm like thinking, wow, Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock and all these guys stood right where I am. And now look where they are. You never know. And
Yeah, and you never do.
Eddie Murphy started there. All those guys. And then I got lucky enough after I did that. Someone spoke to someone over at Caroline's, and I ended up doing a show over there. And that's a big place here in New York to try to do. And it was cool that some people that were in that show were Bob DeBono, he's on Sirius Radio.
Yeah.
Rich Voss, he was a quarterfinalist in Last Comic Standing. Judah Friedlander, he's been on 30 Rock and a couple other movies.
Hmm.
It was just a fantastic show, and I'm sitting in the green room like, do I belong in here with you guys? And like, we think you're funny, just go out and rock it. And I did. I had someone, say a few things, that's always great. If you can get your puppet to go after a heckler,
Hmm.
and then the crowd just eats it up, like you're not arguing with them, someone else is, and you're kind of just standing there in the wing,
Yeah.
waiting for them to finish.
Yes. Well, Vinny, thank you very, very much for your time. I'm very excited to see what comes. You have a bright future ahead of you, and I think you are hysterical. We've been talking with Vinnie Ewart on Ventriloquism Weekly.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you. To find out more about Vinny, you can visit his website, VinnieEwart.com. That's VinnieEwart.com. And that's it for us this week. Next week, we'll be having a pre-Vent Haven convention special. So as always, you can interact with us by emailing ventriloquismweekly@gmail.com. Since the recording of our first episode, we know that we are available on iTunes for download, and our hosting site is ventriloquismweekly.podomatic.com. That's ventriloquismweekly.podomatic.com. Signing off for Ventriloquism Weekly, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding all you vents out there to keep talking for two.